You were taught that if you stay quiet, people will ignore you. That if you don't explain yourself, you'll be misunderstood. That if you don't speak up, you'll be seen as weak. So you learned to talk more, to justify yourself, to defend your choices, to prove your worth. And yet, the more you explain, the less they respect you. The more you talk, the less power you feel. The more you try to be understood, the more people start controlling you. Because here's the brutal truth no one tells you. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the source of it. The people who dominate rooms are rarely the loudest ones. They're the ones who speak last. The ones who don't rush to react. The ones who don't leak their thoughts, fears, or plans. And that's not an accident. That's strategy. Right now, there are people in your life who know exactly how to push your buttons. They know what to say to make you angry. They know what to say to make you doubt yourself. They know what to say to pull you into arguments you never win. Why? Because you talk too much. You reveal too much. You react too fast. Every emotional reaction you give them is data. Every explanation is a weakness. Every defensive sentence is permission for them to disrespect you again. And the moment you go silent, something strange starts to happen. People lean in. They start watching you more closely. They start wondering what you're thinking. They start second-guessing how much power they really have over you. Your silence becomes uncomfortable. Not for you, for them. Because silence creates a vacuum. And the human mind hates empty space. When you don't rush to reply, they fill the silence with fear. When you don't defend yourself, they start doubting their own position. When you don't explain your moves, they assume you're 3 steps ahead. That's when the power shifts. Not because you said something brilliant, but because you said nothing at all. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think silence means losing the argument. They think silence means submission. They think silence means you have nothing to say. No, silence means I'm not giving you access to my emotions. I'm not giving you control over my reactions. I'm not revealing my next move. I'm not playing your game anymore. That's not weakness, that's dominance. Think about the most intimidating people you've ever met. Not the loud ones, not the aggressive ones, not the ones always trying to prove something. The truly powerful ones, they didn't rush to speak. They didn't over-explain. They didn't try to impress anyone. They spoke slowly. They chose their words carefully. And when they were silent, you felt it. Because silence forces people to project meaning onto you. They assume confidence. They assume intelligence. They assume authority, even if you say nothing. And once you understand this, your entire social life changes. You stop arguing with people who don't matter. You stop explaining yourself to people who won't respect you anyway. You stop leaking your plans to people who secretly want you to fail. You start moving quietly. You start observing more than you speak. You start letting people underestimate you while you build power in the background. Because the strongest move in any psychological game is not speaking louder, it's making the other person unsure what you're thinking at all. And in a world full of noise, desperation, and people screaming for attention, the one who controls their silence controls the room. Why silence terrifies people. The psychological edge. Now here's what most people don't realize. Silence doesn't just look powerful, it rewires how people treat you. There's a psychological rule at work here. The less predictable you are, the more power people assign to you. The human brain is wired to fear uncertainty. When it can't read your intentions, it starts imagining worst-case scenarios. That's why people are more afraid of the quiet villain than the loud one. The loud one shows his cards. The quiet one keeps you guessing, and every time you talk too much, you do the opposite. You make yourself predictable. You make yourself readable. You make yourself controllable. People don't respect what they can fully understand. They respect what they can't. That's the dark side of social dynamics no one teaches you. Number 1, the leaking power effect. Every sentence you speak is a leak. Every explanation you give is a crack in your armor. Every emotional reaction is a window into your weaknesses. Think about it when you tell people, "I'm stressed, I'm insecure about this, I'm not sure if I can do it, I'm angry because you said that." You think you're being honest, but what you're really doing is handing them a blueprint of how to control you. Now they know what hurts you, what motivates you, what scares you, what pushes you to react. And some people will use that information not to understand you, but to dominate you. That's why silence is not just calm, it's protection. When you go silent, you stop leaking emotional data. You stop feeding manipulators. You stop giving insecure people ammunition. Your inner world becomes off limits. And that alone changes your status in any social hierarchy. Number 2, why silence makes people obsess over you. Here's the twisted part. When you stop explaining yourself, people don't relax. They become more anxious. Because now they have to guess. They replay your last words. They overanalyze your tone. They wonder if you're angry. They wonder if you're planning something. They wonder if they've lost control over you. Your silence becomes a psychological itch. They can't scratch, and humans hate unresolved tension. So what do? They chase your reaction. They seek your approval. They test you harder. They try to provoke you, not because they're powerful, but because they're scared. They're no longer in control of the interaction. That's when the balance flips. The moment someone is trying to get a reaction out of you, you already won. Number 3, silence as a status signal. In every group, there's an invisible ranking system, not based on money, not based on looks, not even based on intelligence, but based on emotional control. The person who reacts the least controls the emotional temperature of the room. The person who speaks the least is assumed to be thinking the most. The person who never rushes to explain themselves is assumed to be the one with options. That's why high-status people don't argue online. High-status people don't defend themselves in public. High-status people don't overshare their plans. High-status people don't chase validation. They don't need to. Their silence already communicates. I'm not desperate. I'm not threatened. I don't need your approval. I can walk away anytime. And the moment people feel you don't need them, they start respecting you more, not because you begged for it, but because you no longer asked. Number 4, the dark Stoic rule of social power. Here's the rule that changes everything. The one who cares less about being understood controls the conversation. When you stop needing people to get you, you stop negotiating your value. when you stop explaining your decisions. You stop inviting debate about your life. When you stop defending your boundaries, you start enforcing them. Silence is not passive. It's a silent declaration. I decide when I speak. I decide what you get to know. I decide how much access you have to me. And that decision alone puts you above most people psychologically. Number 5. Real-life scenarios where silence destroys the game. Let's make this real. At work, when someone tries to undermine you in a meeting, and you don't react emotionally, you don't interrupt, you don't defend, you don't look flustered, you pause, you let the silence hang, you respond once, calmly, and then you stop talking. Everyone feels the shift. The attacker looks insecure, you look composed. The room subconsciously sides with you. In relationships, when someone tries to guilt trip you, and you don't argue, you don't justify, you don't beg, you don't chase the conversation, you go quiet, you create space. You let them sit with their own behavior. Now they feel anxious. Now they start reaching out. Now they start negotiating, because silence reverses the power dynamic. With enemies, when someone insults you, and you don't respond, you don't clap back, you don't explain yourself, you don't try to look clever. You let the silence humiliate them, because nothing exposes insecurity faster than an insult that gets no reaction. Number 6. Why most people can't use silence correctly. And here's the final truth most people hate. They can't stay silent, not because they lack discipline, but because they're addicted to emotional relief. They speak to release tension. They argue to feel in control. They explain to reduce anxiety. They overshare to feel seen. Silence feels unbearable to weak minds because it forces them to sit with uncertainty. Strong minds don't run from that discomfort. They weaponize it. Control silence. The difference between power and weakness. Now here's where most people destroy everything. They hear silence is power, and they turn it into avoidance. They go quiet because they're scared. They go quiet because they feel small. They go quiet because they don't know what to say. That is not power. That is submission. And if you use silence the wrong way, you won't look mysterious, you'll look invisible. So let's draw a hard line right now. There are 2 types of silence. One that elevates your status and one that quietly erases it. Only one of them makes you unstoppable. Number 1. Weak silence versus controlled silence. Weak silence looks like this. You stay quiet because you're afraid of conflict. You avoid eye contact. You shrink your body language. You agree even when you don't want to. You disappear instead of setting boundaries. People don't read that as power. They read that as, he has no backbone. She's easy to push. They won't fight back. That kind of silence invites disrespect. Controlled silence looks like this. You stay quiet because you choose to. You hold eye contact. You don't rush to fill the space. You let people finish talking. You respond slowly, calmly, and briefly. Your body language says, I'm not intimidated. I'm thinking. I don't need to rush. I'm in control of myself. That kind of silence creates pressure. Not on you, on them. Number 2. The rule of delayed response. Here's a simple rule that changes everything. The faster you respond emotionally, the lower your perceived status becomes. When someone insults you and you snap back immediately, you look reactive, you look triggered, you look easy to manipulate. When someone challenges you and you pause before responding, you look composed, you look thoughtful, you look dangerous in a quiet way. That pause does three things at once. First, it breaks their momentum. Second, it signals emotional control. Third, it forces them to sit with uncertainty. Most people can't handle that silence. They start rambling. They start justifying themselves. They start weakening their own position, all because you didn't rush to speak. Number 3, speak less, but make it final. Here's another dark Stoic rule. When you speak rarely, your words gain weight. People who talk all the time are easy to ignore. People who speak once, clearly, and then go silent, make everyone pay attention. So instead of explaining your entire thought process, defending your decision in 5 paragraphs, arguing point by point, you do this. You state your position once. You don't justify it. You don't debate it. You don't repeat it. And then you go quiet. That silence tells people, this is not a negotiation. I've already decided. You can accept it or leave. You'd be shocked how fast people fall in line when they realize you're not open to endless discussion. Number 4, the one-sentence dominance technique. This is a psychological weapon used by high-level negotiators and power players. When someone tries to bait you into a fight, you don't fight. You say one sentence, then you stop. For example, I hear you. I'm not interested in arguing about this. This conversation is over. I've already made my decision. Do what you want. Then you go silent. No explanation, no emotional tone, no follow-up messages. That one sentence becomes a wall, and most people will crash into it over and over again, trying to get a reaction from you. They won't get one, and every time they fail, your power over the situation grows. Number 5, silence as a boundary, not a disappearance. This is critical. Silence is not ghosting. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is not running away. Silence is selective engagement. You don't disappear from life. You disappear from low-value interactions. You don't stop speaking to everyone. You stop speaking to people who don't deserve access to your thoughts. You still show up. You still do your work. You still keep your commitments. You just stop explaining yourself to clowns, arguing with insecure people, defending your boundaries, chasing closure, begging for understanding. That's not withdrawal. That's elevation. Number 6, the psychological flip you must make. Here's the mental shift that makes silence lethal. You stop using silence to protect your feelings. You start using silence to protect your position. You don't think, I hope they don't get mad if I don't reply. You think, they can feel whatever they want. My silence is my decision. You don't think, what if they misunderstand me? You think, people who respect me don't need constant explanations. This shift alone moves you from low-status behavior to high-status behavior overnight. Number 7, the final trap to avoid. There's one last mistake that will destroy all of this. Using silence as a manipulation tactic without inner control. If inside you're boiling, obsessing, replaying the conversation in your head, Your silence won't feel powerful. It will feel tense. It will feel fake. It will leak through your body language. True controlled silence only works when you've already decided. I don't need to win this interaction. I don't need their validation. I don't need to be understood. I don't need to prove anything. The moment you truly let go of the need to control the outcome, that's when your silence becomes terrifying. Silence as an identity. The quiet power person. Now here's where silence stops being a trick and starts becoming who you are. Because if you only use silence as a tactic, it will eventually fail. People will sense the tension. They will sense the performance. They will sense that you're trying to look powerful. And trying is never power. True dominance comes when silence becomes your default state, not something you switch on, something you live from. Number 1, from reaction to observation. The quiet power person doesn't live in reaction mode. They don't wake up ready to fight the world. They don't rush to respond to every message. They don't jump into every argument. They don't chase every misunderstanding. They observe. They watch patterns. They read people's behavior. They notice who talks too much. They notice who lies. They notice who seeks control. They notice who leaks insecurity. And while everyone else is busy talking, they're gathering leverage, because information is power, and silence is how you collect it. Number 2. Why Stoics were obsessed with silence. The ancient Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote his most powerful thoughts, not to impress others, but to discipline himself. He believed, you always own the option of having no opinion, not because he was weak, but because he refused to let the world drag him into emotional chaos. Seneca warned, the more we say, the more we give others power over us. And Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak, not for politeness, for strategy. Because the Stoics didn't treat silence as manners, they treated it as self-command. The ability to control your tongue was the same ability to control your destiny. Number 3. Silence builds an aura you can't fake. There's a strange phenomenon that happens when you stop oversharing your thoughts. People start treating you differently. They stop joking with you the same way. They stop disrespecting you casually. They stop assuming they know you. They become more careful with their words, more cautious with their behavior, more curious about your approval. Not because you threatened them, but because they can no longer read you. Your unpredictability creates an aura of depth, self-control, danger, authority. And here's the uncomfortable truth. People respect mystery. More than honesty, they admire restraint. More than emotional openness, they follow those who don't reveal their inner world too easily. Because humans instinctively believe, if someone can control themselves this well, they must be powerful in other areas too. Number 4. The quiet power hierarchy. Every social environment has a hidden hierarchy. Not the one on paper, not job titles, not follower counts, not money. The real hierarchy is emotional. At the top is the person who needs nothing from anyone. They don't need validation. They don't need approval. They don't need to win arguments. They don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to be liked. Their silence communicates, I am complete on my own. And nothing intimidates insecure people more than someone who cannot be emotionally controlled. That's why the quiet power person rises naturally, not by force, but by gravitational pull. People orbit around those who don't chase them. Number 5. The long-term dominance effect. Here's what happens after 3 to 6 months of practicing controlled silence. People stop testing you. They stop pushing your buttons. They stop baiting you into drama. They stop trying to dominate conversations, because every time they tried, they got nothing. No emotional reward, no reaction, no control. So their brain rewired you as high cost to mess with. And once someone is labeled that way, they are treated with quiet respect, even by people who don't like them. That's real power, not popularity, not admiration, but unspoken authority. Number 6. The inner shift that makes it permanent. There is one final mental shift that locks this in forever. You stop seeing silence as something you do and start seeing it as something you are. You become the person who doesn't rush, doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't argue, doesn't explain, doesn't perform. You move slower, you speak less, you listen more, you choose your battles, you let people reveal themselves, and slowly, your entire life reorganizes around you. Not because you demanded control, but because you embodied it. Number 7. The dark Stoic identity. This is what it means to be quietly unstoppable. You are not loud, you are not flashy, you are not dramatic. You are composed, you are strategic. You are selective, you are emotionally unreachable. You don't announce your moves, you don't defend your decisions. You don't explain your boundaries. You let your silence do the talking for you. And in a world addicted to noise, the silent one becomes king. The 7 dark Stoic laws of silence. Final transformation. At this point, you understand something most people never will. Silence is not a behavior. It's not a trick. It's not a communication style. It's a position of power. And once you adopt it fully, your entire identity changes. You stop being someone who reacts to the world. You become someone the world reacts to. So let's lock this in. Here are the 7 dark Stoic laws of silence that make you truly unstoppable. Law 1. Speak only when it changes the outcome. If your words don't change the situation, set a boundary, clarify a decision, or increase your leverage, don't say them. Talking just to release emotion is how you lose power. Silence keeps your position clean. Law 2. Delay every emotional response. Never respond emotionally in real time. Pause, breathe, create distance. The one who responds slower controls the frame. Your calm will always look stronger than their urgency. Law 3. Never explain yourself twice. Say it once, clearly, calmly, briefly. If they don't accept it, you don't repeat it. You go silent. Repetition is submission. Law 4. Let people sit with your silence when someone disrespects you, when someone tries to guilt you, when someone pushes your boundary. Don't rush to fix the tension. Let the silence stretch. Let it become uncomfortable. That discomfort is your ally. It forces them to confront their own behavior. Law 5. Protect your inner world. Your fears, your doubts, your plans, your next move. These are not for public consumption. Every secret you keep, is a layer of power. Every emotion you withhold is leverage you preserve. Law 6. Walk away without a speech. You don't owe anyone closure, explanations, final arguments, emotional essays. Sometimes the most dominant move is simply leaving silently, without drama, without looking back. Law 7. Become the person who needs nothing. This is the final form. You stop needing validation, approval, understanding, winning arguments, being liked. The less you need from people, the more power you have over every interaction, not because you manipulate, but because you are free. The final transformation. Once you live by these laws, you won't feel like the same person anymore. You'll notice people interrupt you less, people test you less, people argue with you less, people respect your time more. People take your words more seriously, not because you became louder, but because you became unmovable. Your silence will start speaking for you. It will say, I am not desperate. I am not reactive. I am not available for nonsense. I am not here to be controlled. I am here to build my life quietly, and the world will adjust itself. Around that energy, the dark Stoic oath. If you want to step into this identity for real, make this vow to yourself. I will no longer explain myself to people who don't respect me. I will no longer react emotionally to people who want control over me. I will no longer leak my plans to people who secretly want me to fail. I will no longer beg to be understood. From now on, I move in silence. I observe more than I speak. I choose my words carefully. I protect my inner world. I let my presence do the talking, and I will never again give my power away just to feel heard. If this message hits something deep inside you, if you've ever felt disrespected, over-explained, over-talked, or emotionally drained by people, then this isn't just a video. It's a turning point. You don't need to become colder. You don't need to become cruel. You don't need to become heartless. You just need to become quietly unshakable. And if you're ready to build that kind of strength, make sure you subscribe to Stoic Havenway. Because on this channel, we don't teach motivation. We build inner authority. We build silent power. We build unbreakable minds. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth over noise. And remember, the one who controls their silence controls their life.